Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Manoj Singh Rana, and with me is Aditi Lumba, bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. As the world fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of caution to stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. The headlines. India is committed to Paris Agreement on climate change, says Prime Minister Narendra Modi. French President Emmanuel Macron holds summit with G5 Sahel leaders to discuss anti-insurgency operations. India salutes UN peacekeepers who laid down their lives for world peace. World Health Organization grants emergency approval for AstraZeneca vaccine. And in cricket, India beat England by 317 runs in second test at Chennai, level format series 1-all. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi has reiterated the country's commitment to the Paris Agreement. He has said that New Delhi will work constructively for a successful outcome at COP26. He was talking to the British MP and President-designate of the 26th UN Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP26, Alok Sharma, on Tuesday. The Prime Minister and Mr. Sharma discussed the India-UK collaboration on climate change issues in the run-up to COP26. Mr. Modi also expressed his commitment to working with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson to further strengthen India-UK ties. Mr. Sharma warmly recalled Mr. Modi's address at the Climate Ambition Summit in December last year. COP is the decision-making body of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. Its 26th session will be held in Glasgow, UK in November this year. India is playing a central role in global vaccination, and when the world needs a vaccine for COVID-19, it has been sending vaccines across the globe. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has lauded these efforts and said India's vision for wellness is as much global as it is domestic. He has called upon the citizens to work towards making India a hub for spiritual and wellness tourism. The Prime Minister said, Yoga and Ayurveda can contribute to a healthy planet, and it is our aim to present these to the world in a language they understand.
India is playing a central role in global vaccination. Our vision for wellness is as much global as it is domestic. Friends, the world is looking at health and wellness very seriously, especially after COVID-19. India has much to offer in this regard. Let us work towards making India a hub for spiritual and wellness tourism. Our yoga and Ayurveda can contribute to a healthy planet. It is our aim to present this to the world in a language they understand.
Mr. Modi underlined the growing global seriousness towards yoga and meditation. He also noted the growing challenge of depression and expressed the hope that Heartfulness program will help in tackling that. The Prime Minister said disease-free citizens, mentally strong citizens will take India to new heights.
The number of COVID-19 cases in India is on a decline. Briefing media in New Delhi, Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan said the active cases in the country are less than 1.40 lakh. 56 new cases per million population have been reported in the last 7 days in India. On the vaccination front, he said that more than 60% of the eligible healthcare workers have been administered the second dose in Ladakh, Jharkhand, Assam, Uttar Pradesh, Telangana, Tripura, Gujarat and Goa. On the precautionary measures, he said government has done disembarkations and mandatory RT-PCR tests for travellers coming from UK. Those who tested positive, the genome sequencing is being done. Health Secretary hoped that government will follow the similar strategy for flights from South Africa and Brazil.
We have given 1,70,678, which is 37.5% of the eligible population. Among frontline workers, 24,57,000 frontline workers have been vaccinated, which is 26.3%.
Director General of Indian Council of Medical Research, Dr. Balram Bhargav said, ICMR-NIV is attempting to isolate and culture the South African variant of SARS-CoV-2. He said in India, the South African strain of COVID-19 has been detected in 4 returnees from South Africa. All travellers and their contacts tested and quarantined. A case of Brazil variant of SARS-CoV-2 detected in the first week of this month. He said the virus strain was successfully isolated and cultured at ICMR-NIV Pune. A Hong Kong advisory panel on Tuesday recommended the emergency use of the Chinese vaccine Sinovac in Hong Kong. A semi-autonomous city region, Hong Kong has been Beijing tightening its grip last year. The decision, after resisting it for months due to lack of peer-reviewed data, is expected to pave the way for the local government to authorize its use in the city. The panel's convener, Professor Wallace Lau, said that the panel unanimously agreed that the vaccine's efficacy outweighs its possible risk after receiving data from the mainland drug maker suggesting that its product's efficacy rate exceeds 60% when 2 doses are administered 28 days apart. The World Health Organization, WHO, is yet to approve the Sinovac vaccine.
The WHO on Tuesday listed 2 versions of the AstraZeneca Oxford COVID-19 vaccine for emergency use, giving a green signal for these vaccines to be rolled out globally through COVAX. The vaccines are produced by AstraZeneca SK Bio in the Republic of Korea and the Serum Institute of India. Making the announcement in a press briefing on Monday, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus said that the listing provides even more reason to be hopeful of bringing the pandemic to an end.
WHO gave emergency use listing to 2 versions of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, giving the green light for these vaccines to be rolled out globally through COVAX. One of the vaccines is produced by SK Bio in the Republic of Korea, and the other is produced by the Serum Institute of India. Although both companies are producing the same vaccine, because they are made in different production plants, they required separate reviews and approvals. WHO emergency use listing assesses and assures the quality, safety and efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines and is a prerequisite for vaccines to be distributed by COVAX.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
3 steps to stay protected and stay safe from COVID-19. Wear face mask, 2 gaz ki duri to maintain social distancing, maintain hand and face hygiene.
Leaders of France and 5 Sahel countries on Monday began a 2-day summit to discuss the G5 Sahel grouping's anti-insurgency operations. The meeting, led by French President Emmanuel Macron, takes place amid mounting local dissatisfaction over the military-heavy approach that has failed to stabilize the region. Leaders of the G5 Sahel, comprising of Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania and Niger, are attending the 2-day summit in the Chadian capital, N'Djamena, with French President Emmanuel Macron joining via video link. 6 UN peacekeepers have been killed in Mali this year alone, and France has lost 5 soldiers since December. T.S. Tirumurti, ambassador of India to the United Nations, had strongly condemned the attack against UN peacekeepers in Mali and the Central African Republic. Thousands of soldiers and civilians have been killed according to the UN, while more than 2 million people have fled their homes.
In Iraq, a rocket attack on US-led forces in the northern part of the country on Monday. The attack left a civilian contractor dead and injured a U.S. service member. Spokesman of the U.S. coalition tweeted on Tuesday that the dead contractor was not American but did not disclose more details. He said 307mm rocket had landed inside the base. Of the 9 other people hurt, 8 were civilian contractors and 1 a U.S. service member, according to the reports. In a statement, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the United States was outraged by the attack. Blinken said he had contacted Kurdistan Regional Government Prime Minister Masroor Barzani to pledge our support for all the efforts to investigate and hold accountable those responsible. A special anti-terrorism tribunal in Dhaka sentenced 5 persons to death and another to life sentence on Tuesday for the murder of blogger and science writer Avijit Roy in 2015. The persons sentenced to death and life imprisonment are members of the banned outfit Ansar al-Islam. Out of the 6 convicts, 4 were present in the court, while 2 of the convicts, namely sacked Major Zia-ul-Haq, alias Zia, and Akram Hussain, are absconding. Delivering the judgment, the judge said that the victim, Avijit Roy, laid down his life for freedom of expression. The aim of the murder was to throttle freedom of expression and create an atmosphere of fear so that none can express their views freely, according to reports.
India's permanent representative at the United Nations, Ambassador T.S. Tirumurti, paid tributes to the brave hearts who have laid down their lives for the cause of world peace. Speaking at the Special Committee on Peacekeeping Operations in the United Nations General Assembly on Monday, Mr. Tirumurti said that the blue helmet of the peacekeepers have been synonymous with hope for peace in conflict-ridden areas of the world.
Peacekeepers have long been the best chance for peace. They work in some of the world's most volatile conflict zones, protecting civilians and performing a range of duties. India pays rich tribute to all the brave women and men who have served under the UN flag and continue to serve in peacekeeping mission with the highest professionalism, dedication and courage. In particular, I salute the yeoman service of Indian peacekeepers over decades and the supreme sacrifice many have done for the cause of world peace. I also recall the pioneering efforts of India, especially the first all-women UN police peacekeeping contingent in Liberia, in the backdrop of our own history of forming the first all-women Rani of Jhansi regiment of the Indian National Army of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose during India's fight for independence.
Delineating India's priorities in peacekeeping, Mr. Tirumurti advocated for transparency in selecting contingents, more women in missions, well-defined exit strategies, and no national caveats.
India has always voiced its support for adoption of no national caveats policy at the UN peacekeeping deployments. India believes that a caveat, whether declared or undeclared, places additional burden on those who do not have any caveats, besides having an impact on performance of peacekeepers. India has always called for matching mandates with adequate resources. To put it simply, an under-resourced, under-equipped mission will not only result in underperformance in mandate implementation, but will impact on the credibility of UN peacekeeping as a whole.
Ambassador Tirumurti also batted for matching mandates with resources, honest assessment and feedback, and for the effective implementation of integrated performance policy framework in Monday's session.
Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, Demeke Mekonnen Hassan, will begin his 4th official visit to India on Tuesday. On Thursday, Mr. Hassan will inaugurate the new Chancery and residence at Ethiopian Embassy in New Delhi, along with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. He is scheduled to meet Dr. Jaishankar at Hyderabad House on Friday morning.
External Affairs Minister of India had a virtual meeting with Nikos Christodoulides, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Cyprus, on Tuesday. Both ministers undertook a detailed review of bilateral ties underpinned by long-standing historical and friendly relations, as well as commonality of views on major international issues.
Amazon India will start manufacturing of electronic products in the country. To begin with, it is going to start manufacturing of Amazon Fire TV Stick from India. The announcement came after Electronics and IT Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad's virtual meeting with Amazon's Global Senior Vice President and Country Head for India, Amit Agarwal, on Tuesday. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Prasad said, India is an attractive investment destination and is poised to become a major player in the global supply chain in the electronics and IT products industry.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news. The Government of India took a major step towards democratizing spatial data by releasing the new geospatial guidelines on Monday. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has hailed the decision, which liberalizes the policies governing the acquisition and production of geospatial data. In a tweet, Mr. Modi termed it as a massive step towards realization of the vision of building an Atmanirbhar Bharat and in unlocking the 1 lakh crore rupees geospatial economy. In today's Hotspot section, we are focusing on the new geospatial guidelines.
Maps and accurate geospatial data are crucial for national infrastructure projects such as linkages of rivers, creation of industrial corridors, and deploying smart power systems. Emerging vibrant technologies like Digital India, smart cities, e-commerce, autonomous drones, delivery, logistics, and urban transport require a leap forward in mapping with greater depth, resolution, and precision. In every economic endeavor spanning agriculture, finance, construction, mining, and local enterprise, India's farmers, small businesses, and corporations alike stand to gain tremendously from the application of innovative technologies based on modern geospatial data technologies and mapping services. The Department of Science and Technology has announced India's geospatial mapping guidelines specifically for Indian companies. As per the new guidelines, what is readily available globally does not need to be restricted in India, and therefore geospatial data that used to be restricted will now be freely available in India. Our corporations and innovators are no longer subject to restrictions, nor do they require prior approvals before they collect, generate, prepare, disseminate, store, publish, update digital geospatial data and maps within the territory of India. Speaking to media after releasing the guidelines, Science and Technology Minister Dr. Harshvardhan said that the new geospatial guidelines will act as a catalyst in achieving Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat and goal of a $5 trillion economy. Dr. Vardhan said startups and mapping innovators will be trusted to self-certify, apply good judgment, and be relied upon to demonstrate adherence to guidelines. He said this policy will enable Indian innovators to create substantial advances in mapping, ultimately making lives easier and empowering small businesses.
These new guidelines, they are going to liberalize map making and democratize geospatial data sets, which is the crucial requirement for the geospatial industry. And that's, I think, the most important thing. At present, without these guidelines in place, several 100 billion positive sectors like farming, mining, urban construction, transportation and delivery, location services for e-commerce, communication like 5G, etc., they are all suffering because of the non-availability of high-quality maps, which are critical for these key sectors of the economy. Since government is committed to removing all the legacy bottlenecks towards achieving this $5 trillion economy and the Atmanirbhar Bharat, we decided to bring in high-resolution maps that will remove all the previous problems. Location and tags added to the data shall make it geospatial, and its value will increase manifold. Availability of data and modern mapping technologies to Indian companies shall also be crucial for achieving a manifold jump in our economic growth. Existing guidelines for acquisition and dissemination of geospatial data generated in the country, they had become quite redundant by now, and we have now chosen to replace them once for all. The new guidelines will also institutionalize the ease of access to geospatial data produced using public funds as envisioned by our Honorable Prime Minister.
Addressing the press conference, DONAR Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh, who is also in charge of Department of Space, said that the centre has taken a historic decision to completely deregulate geospatial map making and unshackle the geospatial sector in India for the first time in over 7 decades. He said that the decision is an extension of a series of visionary reforms undertaken in the space sector on the intervention of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
In a very revolutionary breakthrough, Prime Minister Modi, with his intervention and guidance, we could take the decision to, what I would say, unlock the space sector and to open it to a great extent to private participation in a number of ways which were actually permissible and safe to begin with. And this was a decision which was quite unimaginable till very recent past. And I think as a follow-up of that, now we have moved one step further and made a history today by announcing that map making in India stands completely deregulated. That is the 15th of February 2020. And this is in keeping with the agenda which has been followed by this government under Prime Minister Modi, the agenda of self-reliance, the agenda of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And therefore, keeping that as the focus, space technology and mapping would no longer be confined only as a tool to take care of the security areas, but also as a major tool for the development. In the last 3 years, we have space technology being used in laying down of rail tracks, even the mapping of unmanned rail crossings. We have space technology in the smart city program, in the housing sector, in the construction of bridges. We have space technology in a big way in the agriculture sector. We have now actually entered a phase or an era where space technology has virtually entered every Indian household in one way or the other. And similarly, by making mapping accessible to other stakeholders, we would rather be incentivizing them to become partners in the development journey of New India led by Prime Minister Modi.
Professor Asutosh Sharma, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, said the availability of comprehensive, highly accurate, granular and constantly updated representation of geospatial data will significantly benefit diverse sectors of the economy and will significantly boost innovation in the country. He added this will greatly enhance the preparedness of the country for emergency response.
There are three major objectives of this guidelines on geospatial data. First of all, the ease of collecting the data, using the data, sharing the data, basically liberalizing whole sector of geospatial data in collecting it and using and sharing it, so with the ease of doing business. Second thing, which basically means liberalizing by deregulation, which means no prior approvals are needed for doing the survey, for surveying and for mapping and for building applications on that. It's also about democratization of data, which means the sharing of data by all the agencies of the government that collect this data, both with the public and private sector for development. In addition, that this goes a long way in the Atmanirbharta mission in products and services and delivery and infrastructure planning. This is indeed a historical turning point in 250 years history of surveying and mapping using modern tools in India. And this would indeed be something that would create the level playing field both for public and private entities in collecting geospatial data and using it. This is the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, vision and direction which is removing constraints and removing unnecessary regulations that delay our developmental goals, which is also maximum use of technology or modern technology, for example, drones and LiDAR and satellites and the ground truthing for collecting data with the speed and scale which is required. There would finally be an interministerial geospatial data promotion and development committee with representations from all the relevant ministries, and the committee's mandate is to totally empower geospatial data sector, which is going to have huge impact on economy. In fact, the size of the geospatial data sector businesses is estimated to be 1 lakh crore by 2030, and the impact it has on economy is multifold compared to that.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has hailed the decision of liberalizing the policies governing the acquisition and production of geospatial data. In his tweet message after the release of the new geospatial guidelines, Mr. Modi termed it as a massive step towards the realization of the vision of building an Atmanirbhar Bharat. He said the decision will provide huge impetus to digital India. The Prime Minister added that the reforms will unlock tremendous opportunities for countries' startups, private sector, public sector and research institutions to drive innovations and build scalable solutions. He asserted this will also generate employment and accelerate economic growth in the country.
The 16th of February is the death anniversary of the father of Indian cinema, Dadasaheb Phalke. More on Dadasaheb and his indelible contribution to Indian and world cinema.
In the first decade of the 20th century, many films were made in Europe and America. With the passage of time, they reached the shores of India. Attracted by these marvels of the century was a young artist photographer from Nasik, Dhundiraj Govind Phalke. Born on the 30th of April 1870, a young Phalke was drawn to this new medium of artistic expression after watching the movie The Life of Christ. Dada Saheb immersed so deep into his quest to create India's first motion picture that he lost his vision in the process. However, timely medical aid restored his eyesight. Going to England in 1912, Phalke visited studios, met technicians, acquired first-hand knowledge of the craft. Upon returning to India, he set up his studio and launched the first Indian motion picture, Raja Harishchandra. His was a one-man show. He was art director, makeup artist, director, camera person, editor, all rolled into one. His exploits then weaved into India's freedom struggle as Tilak hailed his movie as the birth of the Swadeshi movie industry during the heights of the Swadeshi movement in India. Between 1914 and 1931, Dada Saheb made numerous films, each a testimony to his fine filmmaking skills. His films displayed a dazzling sense of technical resourcefulness. Phalke is hailed as a special effects genius. In his film Bhasmasur Mohini, two female actors, Durga Khote and Kamala Gokhale, played a part for the first time in Indian cinema's history. Dada Saheb's movies revolved around mythological themes and stories. They achieved an instant connect not just in India, but also in the neighboring countries. Phalke retired from filmmaking in 1936. Dada Saheb laid the cornerstone for a new art industry in India, on which stands a superstructure renowned across the world today. The Dada Saheb Phalke Award for lifetime contribution to cinema was instituted in his honor by the Government of India in 1969. Nishit Kumar for World News, All India Radio.
The Sensex on Tuesday fell marginally amid profit booking as stocks hit record highs in the previous session. Oil prices rose amid production hurdles.
Moving on to sports and cricket, India inflicted an emphatic defeat to England by beating them by 317 runs in the second test in Chennai to level the four-match series 1-all. Ravichandran Ashwin led with his all-round brilliance. A report.
Local hero Ashwin took 8 wickets in the match and scored a sensational century on a tricky pitch as India wrap up the game in 4 days. Rohit Sharma with his 7th test century and Akshar Patel with a maiden 5-wicket haul were the other key contributors for the home side as they dominated the visitors throughout the game. England began the day at 53 for 3, chasing an improbable 482, and Ashwin made immediate impact as he bamboozled Dan Lawrence with his first delivery of the day as Rishabh Pant completed a neat stumping. Ben Stokes joined England captain Joe Root to put up some resistance for the visitors, but it was Ashwin again who broke the partnership as he had Stokes caught at slip. Earlier, Rohit Sharma's 161 along with half-centuries from Ajinkya Rahane and Rishabh Pant helped India score 329 after captain Virat Kohli won the toss and elected to bat. With this win, India have moved up to second in the World Test Championship table. The third and fourth tests will be played at Sardar Patel Stadium in Ahmedabad. The third test begins on 24th of this month and the fourth and the final on the 4th of next month.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. UK-based The Guardian reports that Scotland's First Minister Sturgeon confirms phased return for Scottish schools from Monday. Qatar-based Gulf Times reported that Qatar on Tuesday reported 446 new COVID-19 cases, 1 death and 138 recoveries. The Sydney Morning Herald writes that a crucial dispute has erupted over allegations of rape in Parliament House after PM Scott Morrison said his office was only told of the events last week, and the South China Morning Post reports that China denies helping Myanmar coup after pro-democracy protests outside embassy.
A quick look at the headlines once again. India is committed to Paris Agreement on climate change, says Prime Minister Narendra Modi. French President Emmanuel Macron holds summit with G5 Sahel countries leaders to discuss anti-insurgency operations. India salutes UN peacekeepers who laid down their lives for world peace. World Health Organization grants emergency approval for AstraZeneca vaccine. And in cricket, India beat England by 317 runs in second test at Chennai, level four-match series 1-all. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Indonesia. with that, we end this bulletin. See you at same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.